Parents abandoned me over false rumors. Now they're asking for help. I'm not the favorite ever. Anyone who looks can see that my name is Alex. Why? Because a false and cruel rumor caused my parents to expel me from high school when I was still a student. We'll talk about that later, but I even had a DNA test to support it. I have to take you back to the beginning to help you understand what actually happened. This is where the journey began that finally resulted in my parents scuttling back into my life and beseeching for assistance. I'm Alex, and as far back as I can remember, I was never my family's favorite kid. Although it wasn't said explicitly, it was clear from the subtly different ways my parents behaved with me than they did with Liam, my younger brother. Whenever Liam entered the room, my parents' faces would light up in a way they never did for me. It always puzzled me why that was. Was there a problem with me? Did I in any way fall short of their expectations? As their firstborn, I was the one they had been waiting for. It was meant to be a happy occasion, and for a while it was, I think. But Liam entered the world at just 1.5 years after my birth. Everything appeared to change after that. You may assume that since Liam and I are so close in age, we would be best friends, sharing secrets and experiences like many siblings do. However, that was untrue. I tried to be close to him, but there was always a gulf between us. I made a concerted effort to close the distance when we were kids. I believed that engaging in similar interests or pastimes would strengthen our bond. I offered him to come explore the woods behind our house, play video games, or construct forts with me. All my efforts were greeted with apathy, not just from Liam, but also, and this was more hurtful, from our parents. Liam was frequently encouraged by them to follow his own hobbies, which hardly ever included me. The disparities in the way we were treated became increasingly apparent as we grew older. Little by little, it began with Liam getting a slightly larger piece of cake and watching an additional hour of TV before bed. But on birthdays and holidays, the gap was evident. Whereas I would receive useful things like school supplies or books, Liam would receive pricey gifts like a new bike, the newest gaming console, or stylish clothing. It's not that I didn't value books. I adored reading. But Liam's gifts were obviously the result of more consideration and enthusiasm. I made an effort to ignore it. I rationalized to myself that it might be my imagination or that I was being overly sensitive. I even attempted to explain away their actions by assuming that since I was the oldest child, they would have expected me to be more responsible and less materialistic. But it ached in a deep way. I wanted for their praise and acknowledgement, but it always seemed just out of reach. I recall taking first place in a regional science fair during my primary school years. I was really happy to get the trophy because I had been working on a project regarding sustainable energy for weeks. My parents looked at it with a courteous smile and a quick "well done," then returned their focus to Liam, who was chatting animatedly about a football match he had played that day. Their ardor for his tale eclipsed my accomplishment, making me feel inconspicuous. Difficulties in high school. It was hard to ignore the favoritism by the time I started high school. My parents have very high standards for me. They want me to behave well, obtain straight A's, and engage in extracurricular activities that will look well on my college application. I had to endure lengthy lectures and reprimands if I strayed from this course in the slightest. They wanted me to spend my weekends studying or volunteering, and they kept a tight eye on my grades and inquired about my friends. Liam appeared to lead a carefree life in contrast. Although his grades were in the neighborhood of C's and D's, our parents waved it off with a joke and a boys will be boys mentality. They hardly ever looked at his grade cards, and when they did, they dismissed any worries. He frequently avoided doing his tasks, played video games for hours, and partied late with pals. It was another story entirely if I happened to forget even a single assignment or arrived home a few minutes after curfew. I can still clearly recall that Saturday morning. I swept the floor, arranged the tools, and made the garage look immaculate for hours. I wanted to execute it flawlessly because my dad had given me this duty earlier in the week. When my dad came to check, he grimaced and pointed out a tiny place I had overlooked under a shelf. "Alex, pay attention to detail. It's important," he stated firmly. Liam had planned to mow the grass that day, but he opted to hang out with his pals instead. Upon realizing this, my mother merely sighed and remarked, "Oh well, I'll remind him later." It enraged me. Regardless of my efforts or accomplishments, it was never sufficient. It appeared as though Liam skated through life, while I was drowning beneath the weight of their expectations. I could feel the injustice eating away at me, and I started to hate not just Liam but also my parents. I pushed myself into my studies and extracurricular activities, determined to win their favor. I volunteered at neighborhood charities, ran for student council, and joined the debate team. I reasoned that maybe they might take notice of me if I were to receive honors or recognition. I devoted many hours to planning events, rehearsing speeches, and studying. My commitment was commended by my teachers, and I began to be noticed at school. At home, though, I got a courteous nod or a quick "well done" for my accomplishments. None of the joy they shown when Lime accomplished something as basic as scoring a goal in a pickup football match. I was excited to tell my family and friends that I had won an award for my community service that evening. After listening for a little while, my parents discussed Lime's intentions to go camping with his buddies for the weekend. It seemed as though my accomplishments held no value. All of it was unjust, and it bothered me. Why they so openly favored him was beyond me. What was it he had that I was lacking? My family and I moved farther apart as my resentment increased. I began to spend more time alone myself or with friends that valued who I was. When I could, I avoided family gatherings and retreated to my room, which served as a haven. The everything-changing rumor, it all culminated in my final year of high school. One morning, as I strolled down the school hallways, I noticed that discussions seemed to halt when I passed by. Students muttered behind cupped hands and threw sideways eyes at me. I tried to ignore it, feeling confused and more nervous, but by midday the strain was intolerable. I noticed my pal Emma by herself at a table. I inhaled deeply and walked over to her. "Hey, Emma," I said, attempting to sound informal. "Do you know what's going on? People have been acting weird around me all day." Her eyes glowed with sympathy as she looked up. She whispered, "Alex, there's a rumor going around about you." A beat skipped in my heart. "What kind of rumor?" She paused, then spoke again. "Some people are saying that you were involved with Maya while she was still dating Lime." I was taken aback. "What? That's not true. I barely even know Maya." Emma nibbled on her lip. "That's not all. They're saying that Mia is pregnant and that you're the father." I could feel my face's blood disappear. "That's impossible. I've never been involved with her in any way." Emma answered, "I believe you," without delay. "But the rumor is spreading fast. Maya hasn't denied it, and people are talking." Anger and panic mixed together in me. Why would someone start such a lie? I had never been close to Maya, even though she and Lime had broken up about a month ago. Although we took some classes together, we didn't really interact. Why she would say something like that was beyond me. I made the decision to speak with Maya after school, determined to make things right. I stood behind her locker and moved forward as soon as she got close. "Maya, we really need to talk," I firmly stated. She looked away from me. She muttered, "I don't think we have anything to discuss." "Yes, we do," I emphasized. "Why are you spreading these lies about me? You know we were never involved." She looked up quickly, and I noticed a glimmer of shame in her eyes before she turned away. "Just leave me alone, Alex." Before I could say anything else, her buddies stood between us, looking at me. "Back off," one of them hissed sternly. I stared, frustrated and powerless, as they turned to leave. The weight of the issue pressed down on me, and I wondered how I could remedy this problem. Family disagreement. I drove home in a trance, my mind racing with thoughts on how to handle the issue. I determined that I needed to explain everything to my parents before they heard it from someone else. But I saw Liam's car was already in the driveway when I pulled up. He was home earlier than usual. There was a tense silence when I entered the house. Liam was standing close by, arms crossed, glaring at me as my parents sat serious on the couch. With caution, I inquired, "What's going on?" With a look of rage in his eyes, Liam spat, "How could you do this to me?" "Do what? What are you talking about?" My dad angrily yelled, "Don't play dumb. We know about you and Mia." "Dad, whatever you've heard, it's not true." "I didn't do anything with Maya," I said, feeling the floor give way beneath me. With a look of disappointment on her face, my mother shook her head. "We raised you better than this, Alex. How could you betray your own brother?" I took a long breath, trying to be cool. "I didn't betray anyone. Mia is lying. I don't know why she's saying these things, but I promise you it's not true." Liam snorted. "Are you calling her a liar?" "Yes. I don't know why she's spreading these rumors, but I have nothing to do with this." They didn't accept my story. They blamed me and insisted that I confess to something I hadn't done for the next hour. Whenever I attempted to defend myself, they would ignore what I had to say. "We've always known you were jealous of lying," my father angrily remarked, "but this is beyond unacceptable." I shot back, stung and enraged. "Jealous? Of what? I've done nothing but try to make you proud, and this is how you see me?" "Enough," my mother yelled angrily. "We don't want to hear any more excuses. Until you're ready to tell the truth and take responsibility, there's nothing more to discuss." I went back to my room, hurt and powerless. How could I not be believed by my own family? I realized that I couldn't stay in this place any longer since it felt like the walls were closing in. Cast out. The week that followed was a nightmare. At school, the looks and murmurs persisted. I tried to reach Mia, but she avoided me and her pals blocked me. The atmosphere was cold at home. My parents didn't talk to me very much, and when they did, it was usually to let me know how disappointed they were in me or to remind me of how I had let them down. After yet another challenging day, I returned home one evening to discover everything I owned crammed into 2 suitcases beside the front door. Liam and my parents were waiting. "We've made a decision," my mom replied coldly. "Until you're ready to take responsibility for your actions, you need to find somewhere else to stay." I looked at them astonished. "You're kicking me out? Over a rumor that's not even true?" My dad severely remarked, "We've given you every opportunity to come clean, but you've chosen to keep lying. We can't have that kind of dishonesty and betrayal in our home." I turned to Liam, expecting him to provide some consolation, but all he did was turn away, his face smug. I felt pain and rage spring up inside of me as I answered, "Fine, if that's how you feel. Please don't make this more difficult than it has to be," my mother replied in a frigid tone. The door shut solidly behind me as I walked out, grabbing my baggage. I realized I had nowhere to go as I was standing on the front porch. My shoulders became weighed down by their rejection. A fresh start. I took the car to my Aunt Sophia's place because I had nowhere else to go. I attempted to control my feelings as I traveled because she lived approximately an hour away. Aunt Sophia had always been a source of warmth and love in my childhood, a dramatic contrast to my own parents. Even though we didn't see her very frequently, she was my dad's sister, and she had a way of making me feel valued and recognized. She took me into a strong hug when I got there and told her what had happened. She whispered quietly, "Oh, Alex, I'm so sorry. You can stay here as long as you need to." The relaxed atmosphere of Aunt Sophia's house was a welcome change from the stressful one I'd left behind. She offered understanding and support while listening without passing judgment. When I assured her the rumors weren't true, she instantly believed me. "I'm not surprised," she sighed. "Your parents have always had a blind spot when it comes to Lyme." We felt it would be better for me to complete my high school education online rather than transfer to a new school because it was getting close to graduation. I signed up for a recognized program and concentrated on finishing my assignments. It was difficult to come to terms with this new reality, but Aunt Sophia's steadfast support made it tolerable. She reassured me that I was competent and deserving of success and pushed me to follow my interests. I poured myself into my studies because I was determined not to let this scenario spoil my future. Seek the truth. After several months, Maya eventually delivered birth. I contacted her and insisted on a meeting since I was determined to clear my name. She reluctantly consented to meet me at a nearby park. I gave her a direct glance when we first met. "Maya, I need you to tell me why you spread those rumors about me." She averted her gaze and seemed uneasy. She muttered, "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Please," I firmly uttered. "I know I had nothing to do with this, and I think deep down, you know that too. I want to take a DNA test to prove it." She paused, her eyes darting here and there as though looking for a way out. She said, "Why can't you just leave it alone?" "Because your lies have destroyed my life," I said in a firm voice. "I've lost my family because of this. I deserve the truth." Her eyes filled with tears. She said, "I didn't know what else to do. Liam, he broke up with me when he found out I was pregnant. He said he didn't want anything to do with the baby. It stunned me. So you blame me?" She wiped her eyes and added, "I panicked. I thought if I said it was you, maybe Liam would get jealous or something. I didn't think it would go this far." Trying to digest her confession, I inhaled deeply. "Maya, you need to tell the truth. This has gone too far." She slowly nodded. "You're right. I'll talk to Liam and your parents." We arranged for the DNA test, and when the results came back, it proved what I already knew. I was not the father of her child. Mia told my parents the truth, saying she had lied out of desperation. Their chilled reaction. I hoped that my parents would finally see the light and get in touch with me. So I mailed copies of the DNA findings to them. Weeks went by with no reply. When they did react, it was a curt, chilly message. "We received the results. We will handle things from here. I won't apologize." Not even an apology for their error, merely a dismissive remark. I felt a mix of fury and grief. They were unable to accept responsibility for their actions or express regret for the suffering they had caused me, not even in the face of indisputable evidence. "Some people have a hard time admitting their faults," Aunt Sophia softly murmured in an attempt to console me. But that doesn't diminish your worth. I nodded, grateful for her encouragement. I guess I just hoped they would care enough to reach out. They could eventually, she said, but you can't put your life on hold waiting for that. Proceeding. The last straw was their response. I came to the realization that I could never gain their regard or trust, no matter what I did. It was time to let go of them and move on. I threw myself into my academics, concentrating on my future. I applied to other universities with Aunt Sophia's support, and I got into a prestigious journalism school. Writing had always been a passion of mine, a way to make sense of my ideas and experiences. I wanted to use my voice to express tales that mattered. College offered a new beginning. I developed new interests, met new acquaintances, and started to get over my prior traumas. I began writing workshops, joined the university newspaper, and even launched a blog where I shared my thoughts and experiences. Aunt Sophia never stopped being there for me, and when she came to my graduation, her eyes gleamed with joy. "You've come so far," she exclaimed, giving me a strong hug. "I'm so proud of you." "I truly appreciate everything," I said in my reply. "I couldn't have done it without you." She whispered, "Your parents should be here," as we rejoiced. With a mix of acceptance and melancholy, I shrugged. They made their choice, achievement and acknowledgement. In the ensuing years, my career took off. I went on to become an investigative journalist, recognized for exposing wrongdoing and providing voice to the voiceless. Major newspapers and magazines published my essays, and I was honored with honors and national recognition for my contributions. Life was pleasant. I had a fulfilling work, a cozy home, and a small group of close friends. I visited several cities, got to know interesting people, and had the impression that I was having an impact. Every now and then, my relatives would come to mind, but I ignored them. I felt pleased of the life I had created for myself. I continued to stay in touch with Aunt Sophia, sharing my exploits and paying her frequent visits. After a highly publicized interview one evening, I got a letter that rekindled old emotions. An appeal for assistance. My parents' return address was on the letter. With a mixture of intrigue and trepidation whirling within of me, I gazed at the envelope. Years had passed since I last spoke with them. Opening it, I inhaled deeply. They started off by emphasizing how delighted they were with my accomplishments and how proud they were of the articles they had read. But as I continued reading, the true goal became evident. Liam found himself in a difficult situation. He was admitted to the hospital after a catastrophic accident. They were having trouble paying the mounting medical expenditures. They were contacting me to ask for assistance. Hurt, fury, and a tinge of concern whirled over me in a wave of contradictory feelings. Despite everything, Liam was still my brother. They said in their letter, "We know things have been difficult between us, but we're hoping you can find it in your heart to help your brother in his time of need." The conundrum. I struggled with the choice for days. A part of me wanted to turn my back on them and let them pay for what they had done. Ultimately, they had deserted me at the exact moment I needed them. However, a part of me couldn't turn a blind eye to someone in need, especially my family. I told Aunt Sophia my secret. Torn, I asked, "Am I a terrible person if I don't help?" She put her hand reassuringly on my shoulder. "Only you can decide what's right for you, Alex. You don't owe them anything. But if helping brings you peace, it's worth considering." I don't even know if Liam would want my help, I thought. We haven't spoken in years. "Acting kindly doesn't always have to be about the other person," she remarked softly. "It's about who you are." I considered my choices, considering not only the past but also the kind of person I wish to become. Establishing circumstances. I decided to meet with my parents to explain the problem. We decided to meet at a quiet cafe where we could converse privately. I was anxious to see them after a lengthy absence, so I arrived early. They were so unfamiliar to me as they walked in. They appeared more aged and weathered. My mom's face was scarred with deep lines, and my dad's hair had become gray. I experienced a fleeting sense of pity. "Thank you for meeting with us," my mother began cautiously as they sat down. I nodded but waited for them to continue. My father clarified, "Liam was in an automobile accident. He's in critical condition. The medical bills are overwhelming, and we don't know what to do." I inhaled deeply. How did the accident happen? They exchanged uneasy glances. "He was driving under the influence," my mother revealed gently. "So he was drinking and driving?" I questioned, feeling a wave of disappointment pass. My dad hesitantly gave a nod. "Yes, but he's our son. We can't just abandon him." I said, "Why are you coming to me? After all this time?" My mom cast a sidelong glance. "We thought, maybe you could help." I examined their request. I murmured slowly, "I might be willing to help, but only under certain conditions." A look of relief crossed their faces. Anything, my dad blurted out. First, I want acknowledgement of the past, I said. You accused me wrongly, kicked me out, and never apologized, even after the truth came out. I deserve an apology. They shifted awkwardly. Alex, that was a very long time ago, my mom said. With a firm maybe so, but it affected my entire life, I answered. I've carried that pain with me for years. My father spoke after they exchanged glances. In a low voice, he apologized. We should have believed you. We made a mistake. Mom gave a nod. We were wrong, and we're sorry for the hurt we caused you. Although it wasn't the sincere apology I had hoped for, it was nonetheless acknowledgement. Second, I went on, Liam needs to face the consequences of his actions. No more covering for him. He needs to take responsibility. The objection came from my mother, but he needs our support. Supporting him doesn't mean enabling bad behavior, I replied. If you want my help, these are my terms. After some hesitation, they decided to agree. Assistance on my terms. In order to make sure the money was spent wisely, I made arrangements to pay the hospital directly even though I agreed to pay Liam's medical fees. I also asked for regular information on his health and the activities being done to deal with him. I got updates on Liam's status over the course of the following few weeks. While his body was healing, he was being held accountable for his conduct in court. He was accused of injuring another driver while driving while intoxicated. I got a call from Liam one day. It was our first conversation in a long time. Alex, he stammered out. I heard you'd help with the medical bills. Yes, I answered. With a tone of mistrust, he questioned, why? Because despite everything, you're still my brother. He remained silent for a while. I don't know what to say. I said, you don't have to say anything, but I hope you'll use this opportunity to make some changes. He let out a sigh. It's not that simple. Maybe not, but it's a start. He paused. Look, I know things weren't fair when we were younger. I didn't realize how much it affected you. I said, it doesn't matter now, even though we both knew it did. He muttered, well, thanks for your help. I told Liam to take care of himself before hanging up. Releasing. After that chat, I recognized that I couldn't control how my family responded. It was time to put my own life first now that I had done what I believed was right. I kept working and immersed myself in narratives that had an impact. I surrounded myself with supportive and upbeat individuals who genuinely cared about me. Aunt Sophia continued to be a trusted confidant, and I made sure she understood how much I valued her assistance. We used to laugh and tell stories over supper together. One night, she told me, you're a good person, Alex. Don't ever doubt that. Sometimes I wonder if I should have done more, I said. She reassured me, you've done more than enough. The rest is up to them. Achieving calm. I eventually came to terms with the past. Acceptance started to take the place of the hurt and rage. I realized that although I had no control over what my family did, I could manage how they made me feel. I got to know someone unique who made my life happier and more comfortable. Maya was a bright, kind woman with a strong desire to serve others. I began to feel a sense of completion that I hadn't realized was lacking as our relationship developed. She inquired about my family one evening as we were enjoying the sunset. I told my story, everything of it, good and bad. She listened silently, her hand grasping mine. She whispered softly, do you think you'll ever reconnect with them? I thought for a moment. Maybe someday, I answered. But for now, I'm content with where I am. She put her head on my shoulder and grinned. And I'm happy to be here with you. I had a great sense of thankfulness when the sky changed to pink and orange tones. Unexpected turns had come in my life, but they had brought me to this point. An unexpected meeting. A few months later, I ran across Liam in another city while attending a media conference. He appeared to be deep in contemplation as he sat by himself in a cafe. Liam, I asked, approaching with caution. He looked up, surprised. Alex, what are you doing here? I clarified, I'm at a conference. What about you? He gave a shrug, just passing through, needed a change of scenery. After we awkwardly stood there, he motioned to the seat across from him. Do you want to join me? With a nod, I took a seat. How have you been? Better, he conceded. I've been attending counseling, trying to get my life back on track. I'm glad to hear that, I genuinely said. Listen, he said, his eyes catching mine. I owe you an apology for everything. I was a terrible brother, and I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I was taken aback. Liam, it's in the past. No, let me clarify, he urged. I was jealous of you, you know. Mom and Dad always expected so much from you, and I felt like I couldn't measure up. So I acted out, and they let me get away with it. It wasn't fair to you. I took a time to comprehend his statements. I said, I always thought they were partial to you. To some extent, they did, he admitted, but it wasn't healthy for either of us. Perhaps our experiences of suffering were distinct, I mutely stated. He gave a nod. I want to make things right, if you'll let me. I grinned a little and added, that would be nice. Over the course of the following couple hours, we spoke, reconnected, and shared tales. Although it wasn't a quick repair, it was a start. Mending family relationships. I stayed in contact with Lime following that incident. We started to mend our relationship gradually. Once more, he expressed regret with greater sincerity, and it was evident that he was genuinely trying to improve. To test if healing could also occur with our parents, we made the decision to go there jointly. They were shocked when we came, but they let us in. We started off talking awkwardly, but after a while we started talking about the things that had caused us to part ways. My parents recognized their shortcomings, expressing regret for how they had treated me. Mom said, we were so focused on our own expectations and fears, with tears in her eyes. We didn't realize the damage we were causing. We apologize, Alex, my father continued. We hope you can forgive us. I had conflicting feelings, optimism, grief, and relief. I whispered to you, I forgive you. I think we all have things to work on. We spent the ensuing months trying to mend the rift in our family. Even though there were obstacles and difficulties, we were all determined to make it work, progressing together. With the passage of time, our family established a new balance. We celebrated holidays together, shared in one another's accomplishments, and supported one another through adversity. Maya grew to be a cherished member of the family, her compassion and warmth serving to heal divisions. During family get-togethers, Aunt Sophia would beam with joy, seeing the mending process underway. I experienced a deep sense of calm one evening as we all sat around the dinner table laughing and telling stories. Though exhausting and challenging, the road had brought us to this point. I came to see that even if there had been suffering and miscommunication in the past, it didn't have to dictate how we would live now. We may have chosen to be forgiving, to welcome change, and to create something better. I turned to face my family, flawed but trying as we were all of us. I extended my arm to give Lime a shoulder squeeze. He grinned back at me, showing me that we were really connected. To fresh starts, I raised my glass. To family, each one murmured, raising their glasses. Maya clasped my hand as I sat back, and I knew that we would overcome any obstacles together, embracing the future. Even if life kept having ups and downs, our rekindled relationships gave us the fortitude to go through them. I maintained my work as a journalist, leveraging my experiences to connect with others and tell stories that mattered. Liam discovered his calling in counseling, assisting those who had similar struggles to his own. Our parents committed themselves to helping underprivileged families by getting involved in community service. Our family center continued to be Aunt Sophia, who guided us all with her love and knowledge. We paid tribute to her by upholding the virtues of compassion, empathy, and unwavering support that she had always exemplified. Together, Maya and I created a loving and respectful existence for ourselves. We treasured our common goals and honored our diversity. I discovered that while forgiveness doesn't change the past, it does help us move past the hurt and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. By exposing ourselves to healing, we experienced not merely reconciliation, but a deeper connection than we had ever known. And so, we moved forward, not defined by the shadows of our past, but lit by the optimism of what we may become together.